Welcome to Management 280, Organizational Behavior, offered by Harper College. My name is Dr. George Mochocki. This lecture is in conjunction with the Blackboard course that you're taking online with me. Okay, this week we're going to be talking about Chapter 10, Decision Making and the decision-making process. If you look at the concept map that you pull up, that you find in Blackboard, under concept map, you'll have the first tier. First or second tier. I'll go through more tiers in here. We're going to talk about decision making, just quick overview about the rational model, the non-rational model, Simon's normative model, garbage can model, and garbage in, garbage out, decision making biases, knowledge management, and general decision making and group decision making. What do you call it? How a group makes a decision. This will tie into the previous chapter we had in teamwork and group teamwork and group activities and group problem solving. Okay, so let's go to the first one, decision making. What the heck is decision making? If I click on decision making, all it is, you have the different problems. You have to identify a solution to a problem. One thing you have to always remember when looking at how to resolve or how to make a decision, you first have to identify what the problem is, okay? So we'll finish this one. We'll go into the rationale model. The rationale model is a model that we utilize every day in our everyday life. What's important in an organizational culture or any kind of decision model, the company has to have the mechanism set up within the culture, the right individuals who know how to make decisions. We're all empowered now, but then now we're as a group. So let's look how we do. Rational model. Identify the problem. Know what the problem is. They talked about the fishbone. The head is where the problem is. The parts of the fishbone and the fishbone theory, those are all symptoms. So if I had a rash and I took care of the rash and I went to the doctor and they put cream on the rash and the rash went away, wow, that works. But the minute I stopped putting the cream on, the rash came back, what that's an indicator that I've only resolved a symptom. Until I find out what is causing the rash, and it could be my tonsils needed to be removed. I'm just making that up or not. If my tonsils were to be removed, then the rash should go away because that's an effect. So the problem really was the tonsils, not the rash. Once the tonsils were removed, the rash went away. Okay. The next thing is generating what do you call it? The alternative solution. In business, you always have 1, 2, or 3 different alternatives. Your best, your second, and your third. You have to always have 3. Always 3. There's a minimum. You can have more, but 3. And now, then the next thing is which, in the team or as a group, which are the best solution, which, when ethics are involved, the alternatives, assuming the criteria, each alternative should be compared to the other solution. Then what happens, you will come around and then you do the next one. You'll find out which you think is the best solution to the problem and you implement it. The reason what happens, let's say, if for some reason your solution does not work well and you don't want to wait, you made a decision all the way a whole year later, you can see it went wrong. And usually within the first month or second month, you can say, hey, we need to do some tweaking or some adjusting. Do I go back to the whole decision process? No, I use my second alternative. See which parts of the second alternative I can incorporate into the first alternative. So I don't have to redo this whole process of coming up with how to resolve the solution. So that's the rational model. We utilize this all the time. Now, the non-rational model is makers do not possess all the information. Decision models explain how decisions are actually made. So non-rational model basically means I'm just taking a guess. I think this is the way it's going to happen. I just got this feeling. Feelings are good. Intuition is good. I always strive intuition in management. It's a lost art. You have to have an intuitive to see which direction to go. The intuition only brings you to a point, and from there I have to use the rational model and go through all the process, look at all the what ifs or what strengths and weaknesses of the decision, and all the other attributes that come together to make a good decision. Now you have Simon's normative model. You have bounded rationality. Looks at all the restrictions and constraints within the rational model. Satisficing. When I look at satisficing, choosing the right solution. Sometimes we satisfy by just that meets the minimum standard. Sometimes If it's not that big of a problem, you're just going to find the best solution. Sure, you can get it done because we're busy, but a lot of times, just by if you always would satisficing, you're never going to have the best optimal solution to the problem. You're just basically just making it go away. I'm not saying you can't, but you should. It is sometimes makes sense if it's not a real big deal. Just take the first thing. Somebody wants to know, hey, could I have decaffeinated coffee, other coffee? Just take a real quick poll. He said, most people like the decaffeinated, just being on the safe side. I don't have to, it's part of a non-rational model. I'm just making it real quick just to satisfy the majority of the individual who are all right now looking at their health and everything else and don't like the caffeine. I don't have any bias on this or any kind of a backing. It just makes sense. Make them all happy. It may not be the right solution, but let's make it go away. Remember, that should not be your norm. Your norm always should be to get the best solution and go through the whole rational process. And again, the garbage can model, what comes in goes out, decision making is sloppy, haphazard, and usually this happens when the supervisor is under pressure or he or she is uncomfortable, or a brand new supervisor, and they don't know how to make a decision, or the team is very hard to manage and they just want to make it away. Or some people just don't like to make decisions. They should not be in that leadership position. But it happens. They're there. Remember, just be aware of that. Decision-making bias. Now, when you're making a decision, you have to look at it. We all have our bias. Sometimes we have a confirmation bias, and all that means subconsciously decided before we invest. Some managers already know what the answer is, and they do all this other stuff just to justify their outcome, or how do you want to make this decision. Anchor biases means how much information in question leads to answer one is looking for. So make sure we all have our kind of a bias. Overconfidence bias, hindsight bias, framing bias, and how the question is posed. If I pose the question to the team a certain way, I'm already biasing them to tell them this is what I want. And most team members, remember, you got to be careful. If I'm the manager, they want to satisfy me because they feel that if I upset the manager or the leader, he or she will give me a poor review. Okay, and then escalation bias. This is one you have to be careful. Because I put so much money into the process and everything else, and it finds out that my decision is wrong, I think, hey, I spent all this time, I don't want to look bad, so I keep on sticking to the ineffective course of action to say, let's cut our losses and just move on. Okay, so that's some of the biases. Knowledge management. When I'm looking at knowledge management kind of helps me. There's an article in the book you're going to read. It's two different types of knowledge. You have text knowledge, which basically means if I'm looking at this, info gained through experience. That kind of knowledge, some individuals know this is not going to work. Your boss hopefully is in that position. It's not going to work. But he or she's been doing it long enough. They just have, I know it's going to work because they've got that experience behind it. Now, explicit knowledge, what you're looking at is basically information that could be easily put to words and shared with others. This experience, how can you experience something if you've never experienced it? I could say, hey, it's easy to ride a bike. If you've never ridden a bike, it's kind of hard for you. Once you've experienced it, then I could communicate. Other things I could say, put it in words. Here's how you, information knowledge, certain steps. Like if I do the rational model, I could go on in steps what you have to do. The non-rational model is basically sometimes good or bad, and sometimes could be on this tactic knowledge. Okay, so we have that. We take care of that, knowledge management. Now, the last thing is general decision-making styles, and you look at value orientation, tolerance for ambiguity, intuition, and creativity. Let's go on these two. Holistic approach is when you're looking at it from the author, judgment is based on subconscious. Integration, information stored in memory. We all have memory that we've done from childhood or something else, and that basically works on our intuition, comes in. Automatic experiences based in familiar situation. We will try to always, our mind works like that. This is the way we work. This is how we process information. We will go and we'll try to find something that's happening and the mind's going to pull out from your memory bank, long-term storage, bring it back in to say, hey, this is similar. Can we tweak this? How to resolve, what do you call it? How to make the decision. Because it's something where you remember, if I'm looking at regular routine decisions, those are real easy to make because we do all the time. But the ones that, most of the decisions that in a company as a manager are not the routine ones. Those are the ones that are unique and different, and we don't know how to solve it. So we have to use this intuition, and we tied it with imagination. Remember, it says bad to daydream. Imagination is something that you need to have to make a good leader. A lot of companies, you have all imagination is a vision. If I could see it in my mind, I could imagine it. I have a vision. Now I could kind of say how I could work with it. And basically, it's new ideas, novel, a different way of approaching it, not the normal routine way, because you had to be creative in doing it. And tolerance for ambiguity. Now, if I'm looking at, most people want to know all the facts. If I'm an engineer or if I'm something else, a lot of times you don't have all the facts. If you wait for all the facts, it's going to be too late. So if I have 60% of the facts, 65% of the facts, sometimes 50% of fact, I will go with a decision, because unless I got a lot of time. Most environments are going too quickly. We're in a very flexible, very turmoil environment. Everything's moving fast, so I don't have all the time to get all the facts. If I look at all the facts, it'll take me too long to make the decision. Now, the next thing is group decision. Minor dissent, disadvantages. So, read the disadvantages. Social pressure, dominated by a few vocal people, log rolling, means politics are involved in this. Group things we talked about earlier in the previous chapter. Advantages: you have more knowledge, you have different perspective, you have greater comprehension, and you have, it's a training ground. So you get more of a buy-in when you have a group, but it takes it longer. Okay, a minority dissent. Few people are not going to be upset with you or not agree with you, and that's good, because that takes care of your one of the disadvantages of a group thing. Problem-solving techniques. Remember, when you're solving in a group, and this is for an organization, and you're usually in teams, you have to get a consensus. You have to do brainstorming. Brainstorming, there's no right or wrong answer. You're throwing out information, try to compile it to get people to get the rules in. Rules for brainstorming. Make sure you have some rules set up. No question is stupid. Defer judgment. Encourage wild ideas. Be visual. Stay focused on this topic. One conversation at a time. Use the concept maps. That's basically what I utilize out of that. Nominal group techniques. Delphi technique. Computer aid decision. Computer aid decision kind of helps me, but I still have to make the ultimate decision. It's just taking all this information and it's giving me a probability which decision should go well. Remember, it's garbage in, garbage out, or information in, information out. So what I put in there, I can't put my experiences in this. I can't put my intuition. That's where the group has to come in. And then group-driven meetings, conduct special facilities, equip individual workstations, make sure they're networking. Okay, so this is basically your how to make decisions in a group. Hopefully I'm under 10-15 minutes. I'm trying to keep these short. So when I'm looking at decision making, as a leader, as a company, I have to set up the tools. I have to train in individuals, not only the managers. All my employees are empowered. They should be able to make decisions. And so before they come into groups, when they're a new employee, I will have training programs, how to work within teams, how to work, the last chapter, the forming, how to work in team groups, how to bring my information in, how to challenge people within the team without creating a storm, how to come up with ideas, how to be creative. Look, in a team, a lot of people say, I don't want to say something because it's going to laugh at me. Look, people are going to laugh at you anyway. Why worry about it? If you're going to be a manager, do not worry about peer pressure. Do not worry about all that, because if you are worried about that, you're going to be an ineffective manager. You're not going to be a leader. Remember, you're in the company. You want the company to survive because you knew some information. You want to bring it out to the rest of the individuals. You don't have to accept it, but here's the point where you could come up and you make your influence. Once the decision is made as a group, you cannot go back to your team and say, hey, I didn't want to do that, but it went, but the group forced me. You are now part of the team. You couldn't convince the team to change the decision or take a different course of action that you agreed with. Now you have to go with this team and you have to back the team decision 100%. All right. So again, welcome to Management 280 or Management 111. If you're taking this course on decision making and how I make decision making as a group and the different models and everything else you're utilizing. My name is Dr. George Mochocki. This class, this short YouTube is a conjunction with a Blackboard class that Harper College is running within the semester. All right, so again, I'll see you in our next week clip for the next chapter. Thank you very much.